Welcome to the Dental Labcast, a UK-based podcast for dental technicians, lab owners, clinicians and a wider dental community. I'm Jenna Ellis, a registered dental technician.
I'm Andrew Johnson, also a registered dental technician. This podcast is about sharing knowledge from inside the lab. We'll be talking digital workflows, ceramics, materials, communication between labs and clinics, education, industry news, and even the politics that affect dental technology in the UK.
Whether you're at the bench, chairside or running a lab, the Dental Labcast is about learning from each other and working better together.
Welcome to the Dental Labcast.
Welcome to our very first podcast. We are joined by Edward Mapley, who's a senior lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Edward, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Thank you for having me. So I'm a senior lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University, and there I am responsible for the foundation degree and our Welsh higher apprenticeship in dental technology. Primarily, I teach on the orthodontic and real prosthodontic parts of our program, and that's writing the program, administering it, and I'm also involved in a lot of the professionalism modules at our university as well. A bit about my background. I started working first in National Health Service in about 2003, 2004 as an orthodontic dental technician, making retainers and things of that nature. I then moved on to Oxford University NHS Trust, doing a slightly expanded role, doing a bit of orthodontics and a few other little surgical appliances as well. 2015, I moved into education and I've been there at Cardiff Met ever since.
So how did you get into dental technology?
Well, work experience. So 15-year-old Ed needed some work experience for 2 weeks while he was at school. And I think it came up in conversation one afternoon in my family. My nan had a friend or an acquaintance who had mentioned that one of their family was doing dental technology. She said, well, how about this? So essentially, we just rang my local dentist and said, where do you get your dentures made? And they said, it's a lab just down the street. And then I gave them a ring and they were like, great, come on down. So I spent 2 weeks there, loved it, and then went back on Saturday mornings for the next sort of 6 or 8 months, mainly sweeping the floor and making tea, but mixing plaster and just being around and being involved. And from there, went to college and away I went.
So is there anything in particular that you really enjoy about dental technology? What's your favourite thing?
Making things. You know, you start off with a bunch of just wax and bits of plastic, and an hour later they look like teeth. You know, and it's a focus. It's the attention that you put into it, and you know, there are certain things that, you know, like a cobalt chrome and metal denture, I just think is a work of art. It's a beautiful thing to behold once you've finished it, and that's also a useful thing that you've created. It's going to go in somebody's mouth. It's going to give them their smile back, help them to eat and speak, and I think that's makes it worthwhile.
Did you see yourself being a lecturer? Is it something that you wanted to do, or did that just kind of come about later on?
Not at all. Again, 15, 16-year-old Ed, if you'd have told him he was being a lecturer, he probably would have gone white in the face, eyes wide open, and tried to quietly get out of the room. So it's something that I grew into over a long, long period of time with the support of the people around me.
For people that's getting into dental technology, so say for myself, I didn't know what dental technology was when I initially applied for the course. It came about because a nurse that I was working with at an orthodontic practice, funnily, at the time, I was working in the decontamination department. She said, oh, you'd make a good dental technician. And I was like, what's one of those? So how would you describe what a dental technician is to somebody that has no idea about a dental technician or dental technology at all?
In really simple terms, it's a person who makes teeth, just like your grandma has. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. We obviously make traditional dentures and we also do crowns and bridges. As I say, my career is orthodontics. We often get quite a lot involved in surgical bits and pieces as well. So I used to make suborthodontic jaw surgery, where they take the person's jaw off and put it back in another place to correct facial imperfections. So it's a very, very broad range of things that we do as dental technicians. It's a very broad skill.
That's going more digital now, isn't it? So based on the skill sets that you would think people were asking for when you first went into it compared to the skill sets that they're asking for now, how much has that changed? How different is it?
Massively. I mean, we're kind of in a pivot point now, right? So there was a period, and it actually took longer than I thought it was going to, where, we've got computer-aided design and manufacture. So traditionally we would, as I say, get wax and teeth and stick them all together. Now you can 3D print a denture. And, I know at Cardiff Met, we are pushing hard into computer-aided design and manufacture at every level of our program. And so, if you're used to digital designing using something like Blender, then again, that is the way our profession is going. A lot of crowns and bridges are usually based on a milled. Essentially, you get a block of what's called zirconia, very hard material, and you basically have a machine that mills it, drills it out of this block essentially. And so that is the foundation of a lot of crowns and bridges now. A huge amount of our workflow is going digital.
And this is it. People used to have certain manual dexterity skills. That was one of the big things. Like when I got interviewed as a dental technician, I had to sit and do a practical hands-on test. Whereas now I feel like we're leaning more towards people needing to be familiar with the 3D environment and understanding that more as a priority over that. Do you think we're there yet?
We're still teaching both skills. And again, it's a controversial point. I'd certainly stand on my opinion at this present time is that in 5 years, I want to be doing very little traditional stuff. I'm pushing pretty much all into CAD CAM. There's still certain things that you have to do by hand because computers can't do everything yet. There's a device we make called an occlusal rim for a bite. Essentially, we're measuring where we think the patient's teeth are going to be. And at the moment, nobody's really found a way to do that effectively with scanning. Also, traditionally you take what's called an impression of the patient's mouth, where you load a plastic, what I call a tray full of this green goopy material, and the dentist puts it in your mouth. And that one of the things about that impression is it compresses the tissues of your mouth, which is really useful when you're making a denture. And a scan, when you're waving essentially what is a camera around inside the mouth, and that's from that camera, it's essentially building your mouth in 3D. You don't get that compression. So there's still certain things that we have to do traditionally to a certain point. So for a while, it's not going to go away, those traditional skills. So, I always think there'll be a market for some of that bespoke handmade dental technology, in the same way that I can go to IKEA and buy a table, or I can go to a carpenter who's going to make me a very, very nice table that was like custom made. So there's going to potentially be these different markets that dental technicians will be making devices for. Possibly.
Would you say getting into college or university where you are, do you still require that manual dexterity test for students to enroll onto the course?
Well, we don't do a manual dexterity test. Instead, we ask the students to do a little project where they show us something that they made and they take photos of it. So we get things like origami or Lego or Technic. Really what we're looking for is, can you make something? The manual dexterity, you can teach most people sufficiently to be able to do it. Not everybody, unfortunately. But again, as we go more into CAD CAM and those, there's definitely an argument now that we still need to teach them traditional way. The likelihood is you could easily go out into the industry and never make it traditionally ever again at this point. So I think it's still good for the person's development to make it traditionally, because you get to see, human beings are tactile animals. We pick things up, we hold things, we move them around. And that experience, that feel is still really useful. So if you can do it or have an understanding of how it should look in reality, you can then take that knowledge and visualize on the screen much easier. Okay, it's easier to go that way around than to teach somebody to do it on the screen and have them do it the other way around to do it traditionally. They won't be able to do it. And a lot of the ways in which the software works, it's still the way the software is designed for us. A lot of them are still predicated on following that same manufacturing process in roughly the same kind of steps. So it's still kind of important to know how to do it traditionally, but again, yes, we are probably getting to the point where most people are doing things on computer screens.
And that's also going to transfer to the different types of materials that are used as well, isn't it? Because I always feel like dental technology basically didn't change significantly for decades. When I was doing my training, um, textbooks from the sort of 60s and 70s were still incredibly relevant to what we were doing. I mean, I think there was a couple of things like vulcanite and shellac trays that just weren't being used when I started, but pretty much everything else was the same. And then digital technologies came in, and there's just this huge change all in one go, not just the computer technology, but the materials that we're using as well. So how important is it for the students and people coming into this to actually understand the materials?
Well, you need to have an understanding of what you're looking at in order to be able to solve problems. Because like a lot of people speak about computer aided design and manufacture like it's some magic bullet and it's going to solve all the problems. It's not that at all. You just get a whole different range of problems. Misprints, for example, we are constantly struggling sometimes with the software crashing because Windows has done an update or ExoCAD has done an update or whatever software you're using has done an update. The computer just refuses to work. Particularly, obviously, working for university, we have to go through a lot of our IT department to get us to install things. And our hospitals have the same problem. They don't like software being installed on their systems that they don't have full control over. And so you have to kind of sometimes fudge around those problems. Again, our IT department, they're very understanding. They always find a way around for us with something that they feel comfortable doing. So we've not hit any absolute roadblocks, but again, sometimes it just won't work and you won't know why, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you have to have a phone call to your supplier to go, it's not working. Usually they will send you a fix or work out with you what the problem was, but that's an hour or two that you're spent trying to troubleshoot in a way that you wouldn't have had to do if you're making it by hand. So it's just different problems.
I understand that, working in a digital laboratory myself. So, what qualifications do you need to get into college, or we could go on after and talk about get further in your career after that, but what would you say now? Because I think it's, as Andrea says, these things kind of change as well over the years. So when I did my course, it was known as the BTEC Extended Diploma, which I think it's changed now, and it's the foundation degree again over here in Nottingham College. So what qualifications do people need to get into dental technology?
Again, it really depends on where you're applying to. So for anyone listening to this, I would say you need to go to wherever you're looking at to study to see what their current entry requirements are. You can still get in with GCSEs at most colleges, even for foundation degrees. If you go to university, it's usually A levels. Again, that also depends. Like, for example, we have a foundation degree. If you go to our website, it will say we need 1 A level. However, I'll take anybody who is committed, right? If they've got a bit of experience. For our foundation degree, you have to already be employed in a lab. So I figure if you've already convinced somebody to take you on as a trainee, like that's the main hump to get over. And if that person who's employing you thinks you've got talent, and I will take you, I will give you a shot, because why not, right? People who are smart will learn, and who want it will learn. They'll make probably more mistakes, but they will still learn if you give them the opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the different course types then? Is the T levels heading towards this now? I know there was talk around doing T levels. What about apprenticeships? Is it just more formal qualifications? What kind of routes in are there? What are the different routes?
I mean, primarily, my understanding is that a lot of the old extended, the BTEC national diplomas have all gradually been phased out to be replaced with foundation degrees and apprenticeships. So basically, I would say apprenticeship, degrees, BScs, BSc honours, and foundation degrees are usually a lot more likely than not to be the way in now. Or an apprenticeship of some type. BSc is your very traditional, I want to go to university route, usually full time. You go for 3 years, and like the university just takes care of everything. They might organise a placement for you. You turn up at 9 o'clock on Monday and they teach you all the way through. Foundation degrees, it depends on the institution. A lot of them will be some kind of part-time model. So you might go to the college or university like 1 day a week. Or like we do, we basically bring the students in a block. So we do 12 weeks and we bring them to Cardiff Met for 3 or 4 days to do what we call a validation exercise. So again, it's very different depending on what you want to do. And the apprenticeships, again, tend to be some variation of like part-time, you're at work for most of it, but you might go 1 day a week or come in a block. Again, you would need to talk to each institution as to what their model is. There's a lot of variety out there, which again is both a strength and a weakness. I know some managers have gone, oh, why can't this be one thing I can send my student to? You've also got a lot of variety, which means you can find a course that probably suits what you want to achieve with your career.
Do you find you get a variance in ages on your
Oh,
courses?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll have everybody from 18-year-old to my oldest student was like 62. Like I say, he was basically, he's almost retired now, actually.
Has he finished the course yet?
Well, no, yeah, he finished a couple of years ago, but he just decided that he was going to go and get it. His circumstances were really unusual, and there were all kinds of reasons for that. But yeah, we get a wide range of people. It's really good if you want to retrain. Again, I get a lot of people who have already got a qualification, who have already done some other career and are now moving into dental technology. I get loads of dental nurses, so it's a really nice career progression for them. And I'm trying to encourage that more.
Yeah, I was going to say dental nurses make great technicians in my experience because they understand both sides as well, which is fabulous. I've never known a dental nurse who's trained as a dental technician not be good. They really do. They do well in that.
Do you ever find dental technicians go on to train to do something else, like being a dental nurse or a dental therapist or further in the career, other than dental technology?
I mean, obviously the vast majority go into dental technology, but I definitely had students go beyond the program to hygienotherapy and even dentistry, definitely clinical dental technology. And we tend to get quite a lot of people going to maxillofacial dental technology. So eyes, ears, noses, that kind of thing.
So what do you need to do to get onto those ones then? So for the clinical dental technology and the maxillofacial?
For clinical dental technology, for the time being, you can only do that at UCLan, so the University of Central Lancashire, and they have essentially a degree in that. So that's your only option at present. I think they have an apprenticeship that they're just getting off the ground as well. We are hoping to get into clinical dental technology for 2028, 2029 at Cardiff Met. We're currently developing that program. It's in, again, very early stages yet. We're literally in the let's have discussions about what this would look like. As for maxillofacial, you're looking at the reconstructive scientist path program. I think King's College London also do a qualification in it. For those, generally they are looking for dental technicians, and I think the King's is a master's level 1, so you need to have a degree in dental technology. Same, I think, for the reconstructive scientist program, they want you to already have a degree in dental technology.
So is there room to progress into teaching or research then with that, like yourself becoming a lecturer?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for associate tutors. So, we have 3 full-time members of teaching staff, but we supplement our staff with about 9 or 10 actual like jobbing dental technicians who work in labs on a weekly basis. Okay, because as an educator, my role, yes, I'm a dental technician. I see myself as a dental technician first, but there's no getting away from the fact that I'm not at the bench every day. I'm also an administrator and I have other things that I need to do. So we always bring in dental technicians who are, at the coalface, at the cutting edge, to supplement our programs, to teach our students across both of our programs. So we're always, every couple of years, we'll be looking for new associate tutors to come and help us deliver our programs.
Do you get most of those joining sessions remotely? Did they teach remotely, or do they come on site and do a lot more hands-on teaching,
It's
or
a
a
mix.
mixture? Yeah,
It's a mixture. So we have some staff who are local to Cardiff who come and help us with our full-time, on-campus teaching. So we tend to take quite a lot of people from the University Hospital of Wales because they have a dental hospital there. So again, they will often come down and do a few classes. They also have a placement there as well for year 3 of our full-time BSc, and parts of the program are delivered by staff from the University Hospital of Wales that are funded by the Welsh Government. But we also have a range of other associate tutors. One of them is in Scotland. He logs on a Friday morning for 2 hours and he delivers he's a CDT, so he does a part of our denture teaching. And that's great because then he's bringing his own CDT experience into when he discusses and talks about dentures. He's talking about actual cases he's done, in the recent past, again, and a few others. I think one Gloucester, one of them's again North Yorkshire. So they come from all over the place. And yes, we do a lot of teaching online for our foundation degree group.
With qualifying as a dental technician, which is still, is it 3 years at Cardiff as well? Can you go on to start your own lab or business once you are qualified in the UK? Because I know in some other places, like we've got a colleague who's from Germany, and they qualified in Germany, but they had to do the
It's like a master's
it's like,
kind of program, isn't it?
to be able to basically open their own lab if they wanted to. So it's a master dental technician. So how does that work over here?
There is really no restriction. The most important thing is that you have a GDC registered technician to sign off the work. That's really about it. You can come out of college or university and essentially open your own lab. And actually, you can rent Cardiff Metropolitan University's laboratory facilities if you want to start your own lab. I've set it up on a weekly basis. Anybody can come to me and say, Ed, I want to start a dental lab. And I'll say, great, pay me X amount of money for the next 2 weeks and the lab facilities are yours. Because, like our full-time program, it's, 6 months of the year. Our semester is 12 weeks before Christmas, 12 weeks after Christmas with some breaks. Obviously, we have more going on around that. But the rest of the time, the labs are empty. But all summer, it's just me and the staff. There's 60 seats, 70 seats there that people can pay to use and use the facilities. They just have to pay for their own materials. So I've got a young lady who, fingers crossed, I've tried to get off the ground a few times. It's always fallen through because it's quite a big jump for people. Got a young lady, she's actually given a talk at the DTS, the Deontology Showcase this year, on exactly this subject about what this is like. So we'll see if this one pans out, because of course it's a safe space for them to start their business as well. They've got to support the staff. We can tell them or advise them on what they need to do and help them out if they need help. We've got quite a good network of labs in Cardiff as well. We run a monthly dental technicians get together, so we're always talking with the local employers about what we're doing, and it tends to be quite collegiate and supportive. So yeah.
I mean, do you want to give your young lady a shout out and plug her slot, get some people
Yeah.
to come see her at the show?
Yeah, it's Nume Salami. She's doing, I think she's Friday morning, 9 o'clock. She's got the first one. So yeah, Deontology Showcase. You'll see her on the schedule, all things being well.
Fabulous. That'd be a good one to go to, I think.
Do you find there's a good demand for dental technicians right now?
Well, I talk to a lot of lab owners, and they're always saying we need good dental technicians. Again, we have our foundation degree is it's essentially 45, 50 people who are working in a lab, training to be a dental technician. And I'm picking those people up, 40 to 50 every single year, right? So, sorry, it's like 40 to 50 in total. We try to recruit to about 15 to 20 each year. So there's clearly labs who are training people on a regular basis. Again, I'm hoping the apprenticeship in Wales will help as well for us, because again, it's very attractive. It's essentially, free at the point of delivery. So it's a very appealing, I think, for a young person. You get to have a skill, and, you're not going to be in student debt as a result of that. The trick is finding that placement, so who's going to, help support you.
I think that's one of the difficult things, isn't it, is finding that placement for the apprenticeship as well, which I think some people find hard to get into a lab for somebody to take them on as an apprentice.
Who says it has to be a lab? If you're 3D printing, what do you need? You need a laptop and a 3D printer. So, again, this is one of the things that I'm trying to get across to a lot of my dental nursing colleagues. A lot of stuff that we're going to be doing now, you can, do in a practice much easier than you could do. Again, there's still things you have to be able to do. You can't just go and you have to obviously register with the the MHRA, the Medicine Healthcare Regulatory Agency. You need to make sure your paperwork is in place and that you're doing it correctly. But realistically, a 3D printer and and a few little smaller lab bits will get you a lot of the way there. And in fact, it's happening now. We've got a young lady on our program now. She does a dual hybrid role. She's a dental nurse for a day or two. She does a lab work, and then she needs to do other bits and pieces. She goes to a friendly lab and she finishes that work there. So, it's viable now.
If you didn't have a lab to work in, because in our lab where we work, we have 2 apprentices who are due to qualify this year. They're in their 3rd and final year, but they have paperwork that they bring back to the lab that either the manager or myself, one of the supervisors, or one of us registered technicians have to sign off to say that, we've supervised them and that things that they've done, that they've been set to. So how does that work with, say, a nurse who's in a practice who's not got a senior dental technician who's to sign off anything? How do you get around that?
Yeah. So in this scenario, essentially, she's going to a lab to finish that stuff off, right? But there's an interesting argument there because, if a dentist can essentially get work from somewhere in China and sign off and say, yes, this is a good denture, well, that device, you have no way of tracking where it's come from. You have no way of knowing whether the materials are actually legit, but apparently that's okay. So I think that's a bit of I would actually be interested in having that conversation with the General Dental Council to go, hang on a second, if a dentist could sign that off, they should be able to sign off any dental device and be able to judge whether that dental device is safe to go in the patient's mouth or not.
I think there's definitely a lot of conversations that can be had around that kind of field.
That's a
That
can
is
of
a
worms
big subject.
that nobody wants to open right now. But if again, there's work coming in from abroad that has no scrutiny on it whatsoever, that a dentist just makes a judgment on.
But I mean, I suppose they can do that given their qualifications they're basically the head dentist, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, but you've still got to ideally go to a registered lab who's registered with the MHRA, so we know that they're using the appropriate materials. Those materials are safe to use in the mouth and all that. A dentist can't tell that from just looking at an appliance, hence the reason it's a massive can of worms and a huge loophole that potentially really needs slamming shut.
I think that's
but then money talks, doesn't it? So yeah, like I say, huge can of worms.
Yeah, but then again, if you're going to do towards 3D printing and zirconia, right, realistically, there's only a certain number of suppliers you'll be able to get that from.
Mm-hmm.
The computer will solve a majority of issues because, again, there's certain things that it just gets right, and as long as you're using, materials from a legitimate source, it's probably, again, as you say, it's a very difficult. It's probably okay. Again, he says, knowing full well that that's.
There's always going to be a little bit of shady areas in any profession in any time, isn't there? So it's just making sure that you hold yourself to the high standard.
Yeah. But then saying that, if you are doing a lot more digital design in-house, that keeps it in-house, right? And a dental technician can do other things under extended skills. So we can get training in taking impressions and taking scans. We can talk to patients. We can advise. We can be around the clinic and not more. So, if we go CAD/CAM and more design goes into clinic, I would see, again, dental technicians moving into a hybrid role. Like they are not necessarily, maybe they do nursing qualifications or extend their careers in that direction as well. I think usually, again, it's a lot of nurses coming into dental technology, but I would be interested to see people actually go the other way and say, hey, I'm a nurse technician. I'll do all your design for you. I might get it subcontracted to the lab down the road that I know as a technician. Like that's a way for us to stay relevant and to keep these things in the UK, to actually make sure that we can, again, for the benefit of patients, track where these devices have come from, make sure they're coming from reputable sources and people who know what they're doing using software that is, or machinery that is, kept current. So I think it's actually more of an opportunity here for us to step into that role and to be more engaged in the clinical side of things to make sure that work stays here and so that we can validate it.
On the digital kind of things then, so how do you think digital dentistry then is changing the profession with things like the 3D printing and AI? How's that affecting technicians? And
well, AI is the other big thing. Again, Exocad AI, it's already here. Now, I'm told, I'm not used it myself. I'm told people who have used it that it's still a bit iffy, but it'll get there. It's going to get there. And so, again, this is why I see our role as we're going to change, being that we will have to become more clinical. Or again, maybe in 5 years' time, we don't do a dental technology course, we just do clinical dental technology. and that's the way the profession goes, because, dentists are very expensive to train. They take a long time to train. So you kind of want other dental care professionals doing more skills mixy different roles, like nurses being able to do digital design or some 3D printing. Because again, it's again within the nurses' scope of practice, they can sort of make some dental devices, again under supervision of the dentist, like trays and retainers and things. So the idea is already there that we should be more hybrid in our skill set. And it's just that being a dental technician in a traditional way takes a long, long time and a lot of practice. But again, CAD/CAM lowers that right down. If you were to be a traditional dental technician and get really good, you'd need to commit, 8, 10, 20 years to get really good. Whereas again, if you're doing a lot of things CAD/CAM, that timescale goes right down because the computer is doing a lot of some things for you. Again, we do a process where when you've got a patient who's partially dentate, like they have some of their teeth and some spaces, we used to go through this whole rigmarole of what we call blocking out, where we'd have a surveyor and it's all wax and it's a weird piece of kit that you run a little probe around and it takes you 15, 20 minutes. It doesn't really matter, but basically in CAD/CAM, you can just press a button and it just blocks it out. That thing that used to take 15 minutes now takes 20 seconds. And it probably gets it bang on in a way that it might not have been bang on if we were doing it the traditional way and by somebody who didn't know what they were doing. So yeah.
So I think people are still that when you were talking about the artistry side of things earlier as well. So even with the CAD/CAM, the 3D printing, at the moment, and how soon that will change, we don't really know. But at the moment, you can print out a crown, but still someone still needs to actually tint it up and glaze it and everything to make it look a lot more natural rather than just a shape in a single colour block. And the same with the dentures. You can print out a denture, but then that still needs all that characterization, which is done by hand with someone needing really good arty skills to make that look natural.
For the time being, again, multi-material printers are already out there. Give it another 10 years or so, you'll have multi-material printers that are able to, again, change the color of whatever it is that they're printing. But you're absolutely right. For the time being, we're still having to sort of stain and make that plastic look like something more natural. So again, the skill set's just changing. And I still think even in CAD/CAM, like you can design, elements, you can still give flair to your work in the software. If you're just mass producing and taking things off a shelf, that's again fine, but there's still scope for expression in CAD/CAM as well. If for those labs and those technicians who are prepared to go into that, you can still, get your gum and festoon it or do all kinds of funky things, or you can just like click next and mass produce a bunch of dentures, right? So there's still scope for those kind of things. It's just different. Like Toy Story is not, there's a digitally made film versus, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is, again, hand-drawn art. They're still movies, right? There's still artistry in those. They're just done differently.
So would you say that dental technology is a future-proof career then?
It's a future-proof career for somebody who's flexible and is prepared to change and develop with the career that they want. Like the skill sets, very broad. Again, it's traditional materials, it's computer-aided design and manufacture, and it's a knowledge of anatomy and physiology. It's a knowledge of dental materials. It's incredibly broad as a skill set. Again, people go on to do eyes, ears, noses, any other body type. We're talking to people in university now. They want to 3D print. I've not seen a design for it yet, but something to help speech. It's not even a dental device, but because we have materials that are biomechanically sound in the mouth, they've realized they can print these funky little things to help, I think, sort of eating or breathing or something like this. So we could just be the makers of stuff. Come with a funky thing for the body and we will manufacture it for you. Because again, it's all just designing it on a screen and printing it.
Yeah, it's just, again, going back to the materials, it's understanding the appropriate materials for the design that you're making and the purpose of that, isn't it? So still having to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and how that will interact in the body as well.
And let's face it, today's day, there is a lot more materials out there than what they used to be 10 years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of different pieces of software doing a lot of different things, and it will change. It will changes yearly. Like the rate of change is, you know, immense at the moment. I could, for want of a better word, like every year, like our program at Cardiff Met is transformed in the last 5 years. We've literally, again, mostly because of, computer-aided design and manufacture, but for a whole host of other reasons, for AI reasons, for just our ideas behind how we should deliver and teach these things, like online learning, has transformed how we do things. And so we basically, again, our last review, which was last year, we pretty much threw out our entire program and redesigned it and rethought about it basically from scratch to allow everybody to again do CAD/CAM. And so we used to be really prescriptive about how we'd want students to do things. We used to say, you have to do this and you have to do it in, gold or students alloy or chrome. Now I say, make me a crown. They say, how? I say, don't mind, just make me a crown, right? It has to go on this model. We give them all the same case, but how you go about that is what we're marking, and your reasons for why you did it that way. So you chose to do it zirconia. Explain to me why you chose that versus something else. What were your other options? And get them to write about those kind of things rather than just repeating what I tell them.
Quite like how you've gone about it that way, because as a dental technician, you do tend to find that you have to figure a lot of things out, and you need to be able to choose a material for a particular situation. So it's one of those things where you have to figure things out all the time, and it's never always simple. It's never always the same. There's always complexities in there.
Yeah,
But that's the fun of what we do, though, isn't it? That's exactly the fun. I work in a hospital. I love working in a hospital because I will get called into the clinic, and the clinician will be stood there with the patient, and they'll say, this is the problem that the patient has. This is the result I would like. This is, what I would like to happen. How are we going to get there? You come up with the solution. You tell me what you can do to help, and you have to come up with unique and innovative designs. You've got to understand the processes, the materials, the patient to be able to. I've got quite a lot of experiments basically walking around, where we've tried some really weird and wonderful things, and it's exciting to be in that position of trust and to be the expert in the room when it comes to those materials and techniques, to be able to actually help transform that person's life.
Yeah. Like the program always used to be exams and a practical element. We've thrown out all our exams. There's no exams on our undergraduate programs anymore. It's all portfolio based. It's all, I'd like to make this thing. You tell me how you're going to make it and justify it. Or they do a portfolio that is they choose what work they want to do. So you go away and choose what you want to learn. Have some aims, objectives, and outcomes. Tell me what you want to learn, how you're going to learn it, both technically and also professionally. So do you want to improve your communication? Do you want to improve your teamwork? Do you want to improve your listening skill, whatever it might be? And then write me a project around that rather than me telling you what you should go and do. Because it has to be also, unique to their own work situation. It's more authentic as well, rather than me trying to contrive something for them all the time. Say, go and learn something and tell me how it went.
Bet that's far more exciting for you as a lecturer as well, to actually read and mark those kinds of assignments and projects.
Yeah. And a lot of them are doing again, it obviously depends on the student and what they're doing, but there's stuff in that they're doing that is not in the program, like implantology, or we put it on our undergraduate program this year a little bit more. But they're doing cases way above the standard or what we would traditionally be teaching them. Because again, a lot of what our qualifications are safe beginners or safe practitioners, I think the term is now. We teach our students enough so they are a safe practitioner. They know enough about everything to be safe, to know what the limits of their skills are. But there are, because some of the people come onto the program, particularly in foundation, they've already been working in labs for 2 or 3 years. They've got a big head start. As trainees or as process workers. So they've been in and around the industry and know it well. And so they fly, and are doing stuff that you look and go, wow, this is great. And it's a great, again, if they're happy for us to use some of those resources in the program, it just, again, it feeds back into the program. So I see something cool and go, I can teach that, or I can do that, or that's another way that I could think about doing this next year.
Just want to point out there that something Andrea said about you going in and you've seen a patient and you're trialing things, and then with today compared to some years ago where it was just making things for a dentist or a clinician or a patient. From what I've seen anyway, is that technicians seem to be more involved than ever with things like implant planning. So it's not just I'm going to make this, this is how we're going to work with the clinician. This is where you can place your implants.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you place your implants in these, when they've got the CBCT scan. And things like that. So I think a technician is more involved now in more of that clinical side, but maybe they just don't realise it. And I think a lot of people coming into dental technology may not even know that they can do things like that yet, because I think maybe somewhere in some colleges that might still have that bit of a traditional element to it where they've not quite got all of the digital things in there to learn just yet, because maybe those programs need updating a little bit.
Sure about that. I think, well, I can't speak to other people's programs. I know for our own, we're always pushing ours to talk to your dentist, right? They have to go and get feedback from the dentist as part of their portfolio as well. So the dentist has to have some input into it that they then need to act on for the next, whatever else it is that they make. But I think also it's a training thing. So, we obviously, dental technicians before 2007 were not a regulated profession. There was no need for us to be in any way professional to talk to our dentists, to engage with them in any way. And that led to a very much a hierarchical situation in dentistry, with the dentist who's at the top of the pyramid and would dictate down what they wanted, and we would fulfill that prescription. But increasingly, the team approach means that we should work together. And it's not just you dictating down, but actually us having a conversation about how best to treat the patient and taking advantage of our both of our skills and knowledge to get the best outcome. And, again, we teach our students now communication. We get them to work as interdisciplinary teams. We get them to try and coax them into talking more with the dentist. Not all of them want to do it. It's kind of awkward, especially when you're young and you maybe not so confident, but trying to get them to start to engage and think about themselves, not purely as somebody who's, again, our job is to fulfill a prescription, but like, what can you add? How can you communicate better, to both your clinical colleagues and to the patient that you are involved in this, send a note back with
It's
it.
being the expert, being the expert in the room, isn't it?
Yeah.
And understanding each other's scope of practice so you can get the best from the team.
Yeah. Again, this is why I kind of like the idea of a hybrid role as well.
I always remember the first time I spoke to a dentist, I was very nervous, and I was praying that I didn't have to speak to them, but now it's a very different story. It's just like they're just another colleague, and we work together well. Speak to any dentist and give advice. Or
the first couple of years I worked in a lab, I avoided the phone like the plague, because I didn't want to have to answer the phone and have somebody ask me a question I didn't know the answer to. But that, again, with experience, that changes, and suddenly you suddenly find yourself in a position where, oh my God, I'm the only one here, and I have to answer the phone and engage.
So what challenges do you think the profession faces at the moment?
I mean, numbers. So there's not as many of us as there used to be, which means that a lot of skills are getting lost. We've dropped below, last time I looked at the GEC stats, we were below 5,000 technicians in the UK for the first time ever. We're losing 10-15% of our workforce on almost 3 yearly basis, something like this. And again, that just means the skill is lost, and when it's gone, it ain't coming back, right? You have to start building it up from very little. So it's really important for us to try and draw more people into the profession. And again, I think it's starting to be, there were for a period of time, the amount of places you could train to be a dental technician had been reducing. That actually seems to have stopped now, and actually there are more programs coming online. Again, like with our foundation degree, it's been going long enough, it's more appealing because you can train from wherever you are. And again, we probably didn't do the best job, hold our hands up, promoting that as well as we possibly could have done. And even the profession promoting itself, to actually let people realize that this is a thing and that exists. We could definitely do. This one reason why this podcast is a great idea is because, again, technicians, if you let us, we will go back to our labs, sit at our benches and get obsessed over the little tiny thing that we're making or what's on our PC screens, without remembering to, engage with the profession and the people around us.
Well, this is it. When, like I said earlier, when I first was told about dental technology, I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it marketed anywhere.
Same
Um,
for me. I stumbled in it accidentally as well. I'd never heard of a dental lab. I didn't know they existed and never needed any dental work other than a couple of fillings, and still haven't to this day. So I wasn't really aware. You just think the dentist gets, like, I don't know, a size 5 denture out, don't you? Or
yeah, well, this
you
is
pop one out of a drawer or something. Oh, there
yeah.
you go. You don't think about it, do you?
You don't. And I think even today, so when I see patients for shade takes and things, they still don't know that dental labs exist. Everybody assumes that the dentist has made everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you know,
I always encourage my students, look, your lab should be sending you a little card back with the denture saying this denture was made by such and such. Here, find out about our lab, find out about how this device was made. So to promote yourself directly with the patient. Again, that's great service as well. No dentist is going to turn that away because it's really good promotion for the industry and for the patient to understand that their device, as you say, didn't come just out of a drawer. Somebody made it and designed it and, took what their requests, whatever they might have been, recorded on a prescription into account when that thing was made. You know,
yeah. And these aren't just like, we've got Toyota cars coming through, all this same model, same standard. These are all very bespoke things. Each device made is unique to that individual.
Even the digital ones, they're still specifically designed to fit. So there is a unique as a fingerprint when it comes to the fit, aren't there?
Do you find that you are not getting enough technicians signing on for courses, or are you getting plenty and then they're dropping out? Or, is there a difference between who's signing on, who's staying, and, if they're struggling?
yeah. So the challenge with dental technology programs is the space, because every student, it's not like a lecture theatre, right? It's a bespoke room with a certain amount of desks in it, and we have our biggest lab is 27. That's the maximum amount we can take. We always are oversubscribed. Like, we'll get 40 or 50 applications for those 27 seats. So that's what we got, right? And yes, you'll always have some drop off. We're generally tending these days to keep the majority of our students. They are really, a lot of them really want to do it. They're there, they're keen, they really want to learn. Again, you'll get the odd one or two who, again, we used to probably recruit 20 to 27. We used to lose about 4 or 5. It's actually getting less these days. Again, who knows why? It could just be chance as well, but they do tend to seem to be the students this year, they're pretty on it. Like, they're there, they turn up on time, they're engaged in what's going on, generally speaking. Again, there are some of them who get in there, they spend 3 or 4 weeks and go, okay, this is not what I expected and this is not for me, which is fair enough, right? It's a dental lab can be hot, loud, noisy. It's a long day. You're in at 9, you're out at 5. Our program, when we say full time, we mean full time. We don't mean 3 lectures a week. We mean in Monday 9 till 5 or 4:30, in Tuesday 9 till 4:30. Usually they'll do Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoons for sport, Thursday 9 till 4:30, and then Friday it'll be 9 till 1 o'clock ish. We'd use usually Friday afternoons. And also, by the way, here's a load of other things that you need to write and learn in the interim. And you've probably got a job as a student. Like, it's full on. Okay, so some people again struggle with that element of it because it's not like other programs where, as I say, it's more theoretical. There's no way, you can't learn the art technology theoretically. It's all skills, and the only way you're going to get that skill is make it, and make it again, and then make it again a third time, and that's how you're going to get better and faster, by repetition.
I don't know if anybody knows, but Andrea used to be my teacher at college in my third year, and it was for the orthodontics side of things. And I first loved orthodontics until I stabbed myself in the fingers that many times with the wires. And I would constantly go to Andrea looking for help. And she'd be like, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. And I'm
Push
like,
through the pain.
I
It's
wanted you
worth
to
it.
do it for me. But she pushed me. I
And you
didn't
did
like it at the
it.
time, but yeah, I did it. And I've always respected her for that. And, very thankful for that because she's always believed in me. So
Yeah, well, you can see some people and you can tell they just need that little bit of confidence and self-belief, but they've got the skill. You know, to be fair, pretty much most of my other students, you were there because you wanted to be there. You were there because you wanted to learn. You had the passion for it. We have different disciplines in dental technology, don't we? And we don't all get on with the same discipline. So I've never been a crown and bridge technician. I don't consider myself arty enough for it, and everything I put in the furnace just exploded. I never thought I'd do orthodontics, but I tried it and I actually really enjoyed it. You know,
Like, I can't make a crown. Like, you do not want me making a crown for you. I've not made a crown since 2004. But the thing is that, I'm still involved in that side of things. I suppose it's counter marking. Like, I know what a good crown should
still
look like.
understand
I still
all the
understand.
technicalities around it. Yeah.
I know what should happen. I know what the cycles for the furnaces are. Occasionally I've had to cover classes, and I can get by for a couple of afternoons and things, and that's okay. But yeah, again, we all should be playing to our skills. And again, like I say, ortho, and I can do quite a lot of removable prosthodontics as well. So that's my skill and my strength, and I play to those strengths.
One question before we kind of ended it, just going back a little bit, there is different roles for technicians. So I am a crown and bridge technician. Obviously, you guys are different roles in your field. So that's another thing for people who are coming into the world of dental technology, is that can they be expected to do a variety of things, or is it now more specific to just, you've got a denture technician, you've got a crown and bridge technician, you've got a CAD/CAM technician and an orthodontic technician?
I mean, historically, I would have said it was quite siloed, but again, CAD/CAM's like, it lowers a lot of barriers. Like, again, I can make a perfectly good, crown or coping based on CAD/CAM, because again, it's the skills, the high end skill has gone from that, or is drifting out of that. So again, I know what a crown should look like. I know how to shape it on the screen, and that's easy enough, right? And then again, I have other colleagues who can do some elements of that, but everybody could probably find a use for themselves in those other professions now, more so than anything else. Orthodontics, perhaps less so, just because it's still, materials wise, we're still using at the moment wires and a lot of cold cure plastic acrylics. Although obviously we've got like concentrate like Invisalign, the tooth movements,
pressure formed
stuff. Yeah. So things that move teeth essentially with those little plastic devices. Again, that's all calculated by computer. Those little movements that are made with those devices versus like the little springs that we used to bend, little tiny spring that you put in an acrylic base plate that will push on a tooth to move it. I think it's the CAD/CAM makes it a much more broad skill. Any technician should be able to move more easily between the different specialties, because actually, if you understand the software, you can be of value in some part of that chain, even if you're not doing, again, the staining and glazing with porcelain build up on a zirconia substructure. But again, a 3D printed denture, a lot of it is done by the software, and you just basically you print your gum and you print your teeth and you stick it together. That should be within with a bit of training, that should be in the scope of any dental technician's ability. Because even as it is now, like, when you go to a university or a college, we will teach you the basics of everything. Okay, so that never really fully goes away, I don't think. You need refreshers, you need support, and you don't need to be doing everything, but like that knowledge still stays up there. And again, I left and I didn't do any dentures for like years, into about sort of 5 or 6, 7 or 8 years. And also I slowly started to come back into it. I was like, oh yeah, it's still there. And a little bit of a few goes, with the support of my colleagues, and it all starts coming back.
So before we end this again, one sentence from you then: if I wasn't in dental technology, why would it be worth pursuing? How would you get me to become a dental technician if I couldn't decide what career I wanted?
You'd be doing something incredibly valuable with your life. Like, everybody needs teeth. Teeth help you to eat, they help you to speak, they help you to talk to your friends and families. Like, imagine the dentist has taken out your teeth and, oh no, that's it. Sorry, Mrs. Jones, that's soup for the rest of your life. That would be miserable. Teeth are an incredibly important part of our lives. When you see somebody for the first time, what do you notice about them? Their smile, right? So give somebody their smile back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen that photo that went round a while back with I think it was a family, and there's a guy, and he'd got a missing eyebrow and a missing tooth, and everybody noticed the missing tooth, but nobody noticed the missing eyebrow.
It's there, though. It's true. Yeah.
It's there, yeah.
It's transformative. You know, like I remember, just a little anecdote for you. When I was working, Andrew and I did a Crisis for Christmas clinic in London a couple of years ago, and we were making dentures for some homeless people. And you know, I'd made a denture. Just for me, it was pretty routine, and it went off to the patient, and the nurse came back and said, "Oh, it's great." You know, the guy said, "Oh, now he's got his teeth back, he can go speak to somebody about his housing." And you go, "Yeah." You know, like it gives people the confidence to go out, you know, and be seen and not feel ashamed, you know, so or shy or whatever it is. It's really impactful work.
Yeah, it's life-changing, isn't it? Yeah, you're changing people's lives for the better.
And there is one final question. What is the most rewarding moment that you've experienced in this field?
I've just used it. Probably that one.
I did think you'd say that.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, like the students every day, like I've, you know, you taking somebody from having no knowledge to 3 years, and then when they, you know, are graduating, they're all walking across the stage in their gowns and caps, and you've given somebody a skill that will again, for the dental technicians we're training, like again, that will change their life. They will go and have a career and do something valuable. You know, and that career might take them anywhere in the world. It will make them do amazing things, hopefully, for people. So, you know, and I get to have that feeling every year, which is great.
And you never know, one of them might call you up in a few years down the line,
Well,
ask you if you want to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know.
You never know what they're going to throw at you in a few years.
Well, you don't know
Ben.
what the future brings, do you? So,
exactly that.
You know, it's people like yourselves that are passionate, that, you know, you pass that passion on to other people, and that support, and, you know, you give that drive to people to want to do better and to help as well. Because I think that's the main thing, isn't it? Is that you want to help somebody else, and it's not about taking glory for yourself or anything. It's about, like you said, giving somebody their smile back.
But again, people did that for me, you know, like in my own career. You know, you look for the people who are going to build you up, not the people who are going to tear you down, right? So, and there's a lot of those people in dental technology who will build you up.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fabulous message to end on.
It is.
All right.
Thank you very
Ed,
much.
thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we might be able to do another podcast in the future, because there's plenty of things that we could have spoken about in there.
Always happy to talk about dental technology, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.